Thanks for joining me for Mark's Friday 3 and 3, where I share 3 tips and 3 minutes of great HR solutions that you can put into action today. Today, we're talking about our question we're going to pose is around there's been talks of a recession going on for at least 6 to 9 months. Some companies are laying off and they have laid off. Are there more good candidates out there right now than there were before when there was a real war for talent? The bottom line is there isn't. There is still there's still a war for talent out there because some companies that were doing layoffs, they probably overhired kind of after the post-COVID world. And in some cases, they had to trim things down because their financials weren't matching up well. So there were some layoffs, but they probably happened about 6, maybe 9 months ago. But there's really most companies are back on the growth path right now. So that's not a situation where there's a lot of extra supply of good candidates. Most companies are growing well. When you look too at the stock market and performance and optimism, I think most companies are doing well financially. So they continue to struggle to find candidates because they are in a growth mode. Most of the companies we deal with, we work with companies lower middle market, $75 million and below. And just about every company we're working with are still hiring people and trying to grow versus actually retract. There are a few things I wanted to give you a couple of tips right here before we wrap up. The the key thing is focus on really having good job postings. If you're hiring, make sure you spend good time, a lot of time focusing on your job post. It should not be boring and dry. I honestly say I work in HR, but you should have somebody in marketing writing your job post for you. It should be actually something that's fun, that's lively, talks about your culture, the vibe and the culture of the organization. What makes it? Why would somebody want to come to work for that company? If the job posting is better positioned and better written, there are lots of statistics will say you will have a lot more candidates, at least 1.5 times, maybe 2 times the candidates posting for your position than if you have a dry, mundane job posting. So really focus on that. The other big thing is making sure you have momentum in your hiring process. The key thing is here when we talk about momentum, we have companies that want to wait for weeks. They think the employee or possible employee is going to wait for them. That's the wrong answer. They're not going to wait on you. Good candidates always have opportunities to find good jobs. So make sure instead of taking weeks or possibly months to recruit one candidate, that should be happening now in days. Be very intentional about your hiring process. Get your ducks in a row. And when a recruiter comes identify as a good candidate, make sure you can move the recruiting cycle through very quickly. And again, that should be something that's done over days, not weeks anymore. Or else I guarantee you a lot of our clients do that. It really struggles and it frustrates the daylights out of us. But making sure that you have a really quick and focused and intentional hiring process to recruit very quickly. That's it for today. Look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks so much. Bye bye. Thanks for joining me for Mark's Friday 3 and 3, where I share 3 tips and 3 minutes of great HR solutions that you can implement and put into action today. So, the question we're going to pose today is what are the major HR struggles companies are struggling with today? What are they challenged with? So, we're going to focus on that. The first one is, and again, we focus on working with lower middle market size companies that have some challenges within their people side of the business. So, what do we focus on? Talent retention. You got to focus on talent retention. I live in Dallas Fort Worth area, but this is nationwide. There is still a struggle to find good people. So, making sure you do everything to attract, not only attract but also just retain your top talent. Who are you? First of all, too, you got to know who your top talent is. So that's step number one. Secondly, you've got to be taking care and locking in that top 10 to 20% of your employee base. Because if you don't, guess what? There's a good chance if you're not paying them well and you're not showing them that they have a career path to focus on within your organization, there's a good chance that they're going to be looking elsewhere or a recruiter is going to be calling them about an opportunity. So making sure you can focus on taking care of your top talent. Number one, hire quality candidates, making sure you do a lot of things to hire quality people. There's still a war for talent out there because the economy is growing now. It has stabilized, it is growing. So making sure that you have a really well locked down, honed recruiting process. A lot of companies don't that we deal with. It's very inconsistent. They take way too long to get a process started. They take weeks to finish it up. If you take if you take weeks to actually go from first contact with a candidate through actually making an offer, I guarantee you most of the time that person is not available because good people can always find good jobs. And then the last thing we wanted to focus about today was around really focusing on leadership development. And again, we deal with companies that are 50, 100, 200 people. Most of them have never done anything around leadership development, actually how a person can be a good leader. The number one reason a person leaves the company is that they do not trust or respect their boss. That's the number one reason. Usually it's not compensation. Compensation is usually three or four. But number one reason is they do not have a good relationship, don't trust or respect their manager. So making sure that you can actually equip your managers to be successful. Most of them didn't go to school to become leaders. They didn't have leadership 101 there. Help them to find that. We do that with our clients. We do a lot of leadership development and coaching work with them. So make sure you're very intentional. Even if you just get a book and you read the book together, we have something that's low cost programs that we offer to our clients. So there's a lot of great things you can do to actually equip them to be successful. So those are the 3 tips for today. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Friday. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me for Mark's Friday 3 and 3, where I share 3 tips and 3 minutes of great HR solutions that you can put into action today. The key question we're going to post today and then give you 3 actionable items on is, how do you handle the gap between new employees and existing employees with regard to compensation? Huge issue right now we struggle with and our clients struggle with a lot. Let me give you this scenario. So a good employee who's been with you for 3 years, they're making $75,000 for whatever their job is, let's say. Then you have to hire somebody else in a position similar or the identical position. You may have to offer that person $85 to attract them because it's still a challenging market out there for hiring. So what do you have to do? Key thing you have to do there is identify who your top talent is. Who are the top 10, 15, 20% of the people that you need to lock in and really, really retain? Identify who those people are through a performance management process and then pay them well. Pay them above market, pay them 80th or 90th percentile of what the market is demanding, because you've got to do everything you can to retain those folks. So that's number one. Then you have to look at recommend every 2 to 3 years, you actually start looking at benchmarking your compensation externally. What does that look like? We actually do this with a lot of our clients, but we have a tool we use that's great, but I won't go into that here. Let me know if you want to find out more information, but finding out what the going market is externally for pay, because there's a good chance that your company may not have been able to keep up with pay as it has continued to rocket because there's a lack of supply of good candidates out there. So making sure you do a benchmarking survey, whatever that looks like, to make sure you're paying your people competitively. Because if you don't, guess what? Chances are you're going to have increased turnover because they're going to go somewhere else because they know that they can make 20, 30, 40% more someplace else because you're no longer paying competitively. And the last one we want to talk about is a total compensation statement. So what is that, you may ask, Mark? So what this is really defining clearly the total. Everybody looks at their paycheck and what is the net pay they get. But there's a lot more as you as an employer put into pay. That includes healthcare benefits. That includes maybe a 401k match possibly. That includes PTO. That includes company holidays. So all those facets cost you a lot of money to actually have your people on staff. Make sure every year you actually show your employees. So if that employee makes $50,000, there's a good chance that that employee, when you give them a total compensation package, looking at every cost associated with them, their cost goes from $50,000 to possibly $60,000, $65,000, $70,000. And that's no kidding, no lie. And people are shocked at that. So making sure you do that compensation statement annually, great exercise to retain your people because they know how much you are paying for them. So with that, that's our Friday 3 and 3. Look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks. Bye.